Hey everybody, what's going on? I just got out of a media screening of James Bond No Time to Die. Here is my non-spoiler review. As a matter of fact, when you go into the movie theater, there's a hashtag no time for spoilers. Why? Because this movie is a very different James Bond movie than what we have seen in the past. I'm not going to say anything else, good, bad, or otherwise, but it is different. And for those of you who are going to be watching it very soon, don't spoil it for anyone, please. I mean, this is, of course, Daniel Craig's, quote unquote, last outing as James Bond. I think he was phenomenal in this film. I'll talk about that in just a bit, but yeah, don't spoil it for anyone. Okay, so now let's talk about the runtime of this film, 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's a long James Bond film. I think it's the longest if I'm not mistaken, but I might be wrong on that, but it's long. Does it need to be 2 hours and 45 minutes? No, it could be shorter. They could cut some of the fat out, and I think it would help out the storyline a little bit more. Film, by the way, if you haven't seen Spectre in a few years, please watch Spectre before you go into this if you've forgotten some of the aspects of that story, because it relies heavily on Spectre for the first half of the film, and then it goes on to its own journey after that. But yeah, sort of to refresh your memory, it would help. Let's get into the overall story of this. This has a lot of twists and turns from the very beginning. You think you know where it's going to go, and it doesn't go that way. And I like that about Bond films, or I like that about films in general. I like not knowing where the characters are going to go. Of course, it's James Bond, so you know there's going to be certain aspects of Bond that are going to be quintessential James Bond, but they've done a good job keeping you on your toes for the 2 hours and 45 minutes that you're in the theater. Now, one of my big concerns about this film was this going to be the woke James Bond? And the answer is no, it's not. I don't know why the marketing team at Universal Pictures thinks that talking about Bond in the post-Me Too era and Cary Fukunaga doing an interview with a Hollywood Reporter talking about how Sean Connery's Bond was, you could say he was raping women back then. I don't know why people are talking this way. As a matter of fact, you're alienating audiences from it, because I don't think anybody saw Sean Connery's Bond that way. I just thought it was really poor choice of words, in my personal opinion. Maybe he thought the same, and maybe wish he probably could take it back. So to be honest with you, I don't see any sort of the females are in the driver's seat, the guy's sitting in the back, just sort of letting them do their thing, and a James Bond is this weak guy. You don't see that at all. This is James Bond's film. This is his film from the beginning to the end. He is the star. He is the driving force. Yes, there are some strong female characters, but they do fit into the film. I didn't get any sort of this, female power and we're going to do this and all that kind of stuff. I didn't get anything in this film like that at all. As a matter of fact, it was at some points I was like, I got a little bit of Connery from Daniel Craig's performance. I got a little bit of Roger Moore from Daniel Craig's performance. He's a little bit cheeky. He's a little seductive. He's the Bond that us guys want to be like, and women want to be with. So for all those concerned about that, do not be. It's just bad marketing angles from the studio, which they should not do, because it's not there in this film. Let's talk about the overall story. This movie does remind me a little bit of The Dark Knight Rises in terms of its storyline, because it does rely heavily on Spectre, like how The Dark Knight Rises sort of relied a bit on previous films, and it brings you into, then towards the end, it kind of deals on its own story. And it's sort of like that with this. So the first part is Spectre, and then the second part deals with Ramy Malek's character. He's not in the film that much, to be honest with you, but he's in it enough. He's a great actor, and he has great performances, but maybe if he was in the film a little bit more, there would be more of you would feel more of that threat, that, that big bad guy threat that you would get out of these James Bond films in the past. But because he's not, and because his motivation seems a little bit weaker than others in the film, because there's a few storylines going on, you kind of, it kind of falls flat in that regard. And that's where I think this movie could have been fantastic. It's good, but it could have been fantastic if they would have fleshed out his character's motivation a little bit more. That's all I'm going to say in that regard. But let's talk about some of the actors in this. Okay. Léa Seydoux. Now, Léa Seydoux does come over from Spectre, and her and James Bond are in this relationship, and you really feel the chemistry in this. I mean, in Spectre, I was a little bit hit miss on their chemistry. This film, you really get it. These two you feel the relationship, you feel their passion for each other. I mean, it's very different, and I liked it a lot. I think these two are the driving force of this film. It's really about these two in a lot of ways, and it's a good thing, because I don't want to give away too much, but this was what really makes it a special film, and many aspects that we haven't seen in other Bond films is that that attraction, that chemistry, and their journey in this movie. So let's talk about Lashanna Lynch. Now, her character, a lot of people were worried because in the trades, they were talking about her being the new 007. Is she going to replace James Bond? Is she going to be the main spy in this film and James Bond just going to be sitting in the back? No, it's not that way at all. Yes, she has the 007 moniker. It's already been out there. I'm not spoiling anything for you. But I will say that it's a very interesting dynamic between the two, but this is still James Bond's film. I would say that of all the main characters, at least in the movie, her character arc was probably the least fleshed out, which I was surprised about because everybody's talking about all the female characters are going to be stronger and have a much more, fleshed out storyline. Hers, not so much. I mean, I was watching through most of the film, she's kind of not likable in a lot of the movie. She's really not. I mean, towards the end, a little bit better, but she's not the most likable person. Maybe that's the direction they wanted to go with her. Very different from James Bond in a way, but yeah, it's kind of like that. But she did a great job in the role. Jeffrey Wright, I love Jeffrey Wright. Any movie Jeffrey Wright is in, even Shaft, I like him in it, and he's fantastic in it. He's not in it a lot, but where he's in it, impactful. And the chemistry between him and Daniel Craig, these two probably just sit back and having beers and just shots of whiskey and just enjoying themselves offset because you can see these two are really good friends. I mean, if they're not, man, they've sold me because when these two come on screen together, it's so much fun. You just want to be one of the guys sitting there having a conversation with them. They're just fantastic in it. Okay, now let's talk about Ramy Malik. I did touch a little bit about his character before. He's fantastic in the movie. He's a really good actor, very talented. He does bring some of that quintessential Bond bad guy and his mannerisms and his voice, and of course he's got the makeup on his face and he's a little bit scarred up and you find out a little bit why it's like that. But yeah, his character was, they could have done so much more with his character, but he ended up being very sort of two-dimensional. And it's a shame because he's such a talented actor that they could have done much more with him. And I think that's one of the unfortunate aspects of this film. So let's talk about Ralph Fiennes for a moment. He's really good in this as well. He plays M, and he gets a little bit more screen time in this. And it's not as clear-cut of a role as you might think. He is really heavily involved in this film in a way that I think what they've done with the M character, what they did with Judi Dench, now they've done with Ralph Fiennes, is they are really integral parts of the storyline. And I think what you saw with Judi Dench, how she was so integral in Skyfall, it's sort of that same thing with M here in No Time to Die. So it's really exciting to watch. Don't want to give away too much, but it's not what you may think it is going into it. Then we have Christoph Waltz, who is Blofeld, and he carries over from Spectre, and he's not in the film that much. But the moment he is in the film and the scenes that he does have change the direction of the film dramatically. And it's always great to see Daniel Craig and Christoph Waltz just sort of go at it against each other because it's like the Batman versus Joker. It's a mental mind game between these two. And you have emotion, you have humor, you have endearment, you have frustration, you have all these things that come into play. Cary Fukunaga did a tremendous job with the scenes that I saw. It was really, really good. So yeah, he's fantastic like always. I love watching Christoph Waltz. I mean, he just adds this sort of eeriness to every role that he brings. Besides that, we'll talk about the cars. Aston Martins are all in it. Range Rovers, Land Rovers, they're all in it. It is a car commercial. It's a motorcycle commercial with Triumph as well. If you like those kind of things, you're going to love it. There are some gadgets in this film, but it's not overly done like the previous Bond films before Daniel Craig. They are there for a specific reason, but it's not overkill. It's kind of nice. It's a nod to the older films, but they don't overdo it. You know what I mean? Not every gadget gets Bond out of a situation, which I appreciate. That's one thing I liked about the Daniel Craig era of the Bond films. It was more him and some of his team members, but it's not about the gadgets as much, and that's one of the cool things about this film. But my final thoughts on the film, I enjoyed it. Yes, there are some misses in it. It's a bit bloated up with some of the so many characters and try to fit so many storylines into it when it really is about James Bond and his journey. I'm going to miss Daniel Craig. He is effing phenomenal in this film. This is the best I've seen Daniel Craig in Bond. Even better than Casino Royale, in my personal opinion. He just knocked it out of the park. So much so when I walked out of the theater, I was a bit sad that I'm not going to see Daniel Craig as Bond again. And, you know, he's just so good in this, guys. He really is. I mean, I hope he does what Connery did, you know, takes a little bit of a hiatus and then comes back again. I hope he does, because I don't know who's going to replace Daniel Craig. He's so good in this role, in this film. Even when the film misses, he's so strong in it that it keeps the film going. Man, I'm going to miss him. Daniel Craig was just so good. And I'm sad he's not going to be Bond anymore. I really am, man. This is... I need a moment. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the film. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Any questions you have, I'll try to answer them and not spoil the movie for you. With that, take care, stay safe, and we'll chat to you very soon. Take care.